Hi, my name is Anna, and I will collaborate with Stefano. I will accompany you to discover the history of design. The word design means planning. It is a word that has always been present in history, ever since men designed traps to capture animals in prehistoric times. The word design to me is the logical solution of a problem. Let's go back to the discovery of the wheel. It was created to better carry a weight, so problem and solution. The word design began to take on a meaning slowly in history, starting from the machines, which were shown as toys to entertain the nobles between 1400 and 1500, which subsequently turned into work tools. The word designer was first used by Henry Cole, an English designer and theorist of nascent industrial design, in 1851 during the first Universal Exhibition in London organized by himself and Prince Albert. For the first time, national productions were directly compared and different industrial models could be analyzed. Cole sees the need for a new figure who has a broader vision and who can combine art and science. The designer is able to give a correct configuration to objects, without having to disguise them, taking objects from the past. For example, the first cars were practically horse carriages, without the horses. During the first Universal Exhibition in London, something different from the usual appeared to visitors, such as, for example, Goodyear's vulcanized rubber, Russell Crampton's locomotive, Colt weapons, and Adolphe Sax's wind instrument. Henry Cole wanted a museum to be added to the design school, through which to present the best technical achievements, facilitating the student, but also a normal visitor to understand the present and past reality in order to be able to create a better future. Cole created some fundamental concepts, first of all that of the art manufacturer or artist maker, a definition that equals aesthetic art and the practical activity carried out. Cole also spoke about useful objects and for the first time about the concept of utility and functionality, which today become the guiding aspect of the project. Between 1849 and 1853 he published the Journal of Design and Manufactures, which became the voice of his philosophy. From that event onwards, the design and the figure of the designer began to develop throughout the globe, giving different footprints depending on the nation involved. For example, Fordism, which will be explored in another video, was born in the United States. Rationalism will develop in Germany through the Bauhaus School and the Ulm School, which will influence states such as Italy, Scandinavia, Japan, and many others. However, Cole's concepts were not always accepted. For example, John Ruskin, Augustus Welby, and William Morris objected for social reasons. The reasons were that the workers in the factories were treated in semi-slavery conditions. They also emphasized the fact that a machine-made product was of lower quality than a handcrafted product. William Morris then founded his own craft cooperative dedicated to high-quality creations. This operation was successful and led to the creation of the so-called English arts and crafts, which had a considerable influence and renewed the concept of the project throughout Europe. Morris created these objects for the elite of society, mainly because of the high cost. His ideas, however, clashed with the fact that more and more standardized products were needed to meet market demand, and so he was overtaken by the technical evolution due to the advent of electrification. However, thanks to his contribution, showed how progress could not go hand in hand with inhumane working conditions. Progress had to be matched by adequate social progress. Everything I have talked about so far would not be possible without the technological developments brought forward by the human being. Industrial revolutions are always based on technological discoveries and new materials. The advent of steam engines represented a fundamental moment that led to the use of coal instead of wood. Coal could be easily transported and had a better energy development than wood. Europe at that time was the largest consumer of timber. In fact, this material was used to work glass, steel, iron, and many other elements. The reckless use of wood led to the disappearance of many forests, as there was no respect for the environment nor the idea of replanting a tree where it had been removed. Unlike wood, coal could be extracted from quarries or mines, and a number of scientists began to develop steam machinery to create tools capable of working or transporting materials and people. In 1705, Thomas Newcomen created the first reliable steam machine, which was later improved by James Watt. His design was further modified by George Stephenson in 1829 for the creation of the locomotive, which completely revolutionized the world. These inventors owe their success to the miners, because they developed their idea using the rails that were used to transport coal out of the mines. Just think that at the time the train ran at a speed of 6 kilometers per hour, and it was considered very fast. The first railway was created in 1830 in England and precisely between Liverpool and Manchester. Right in that section, George Stephenson won a speed race against other inventors to demonstrate the speed and reliability of his vehicle, reaching a speed of 50 kilometers per hour. From that race, the train became famous all over the world. Let's just think of the United States of America, where it was used to connect the whole country. Native Americans often attacked the train because they considered it an enemy to be driven out. The shape of the trains was different depending on the area of the world. If we look at that of the United States, we can see how in front of the locomotive there was a triangular accessory called buffalo chaser, whose name comes exactly from the function it was supposed to have. But let's think about it for a moment. The locomotive has developed all over the world thanks to technicians and engineers who have worked to modify it and adapt it to different territories. But how could these projects communicate? The answer lies in a very simple and brilliant idea. It is technical drawing that allowed the development of design in the world. Verbal communication can create problems or misunderstandings, and it's not possible to verify the actual dimensions of the piece. Technical drawing saw the light in the Renaissance, thanks to architects and shipwrights, who helped each other with the first written documentation to explain to their subordinates how work should be carried out. One of the fundamental texts from which we can trace this technique is called De Pictura by Leon Battista Alberti, where he depicted the proportions through numerous examples and primary geometric figures, in such a way as to give certain references to both his own generation and to the future one. From that moment on there was a continuous development by various artistic, architectural, mathematical figures etc. up to the military engineer Gaspard Monge, who defined the techniques of representation, such as orthogonal proportions. Observing the drawings of this designer, it can be seen how he dictated a line in the history of design, as henceforth everyone gradually began to use his system of representing an object. The artisans initially saw the birth of this style of representation as an obstacle, because it could favor the control of their work, with the risk of having their projects, or their know-how stolen. It was a very delicate moment in history, because each artisan shop had its own processes and experience handed down from generation to generation. Gaspard Monge's representation system therefore could offer a real revolution to the artisans of the time, but also, on the other hand, the real risk of losing one's job. Over time, the technique of representation created by this military engineer was adopted within the education system both in Europe and in the United States of America. In England, the Royal Navy began to create a scale model and a plan of each ship in its fleet, in such a way as to be able to reproduce it faithfully, or to be able to repair it following the initial indications of the designer. As a result, each ship was equipped with its own drawings so that wherever it was in the world it could be easily repaired, precisely because the technical drawings could be read by anyone. That's all. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like or subscribe to the channel if you wish to see other content related to the world of design. See you next time. Bye.